I really do. I'm the unhinged bit, and you can be like the bring it in, reel me in.
No, let's just talk about it 64. Come on. Final Fantasy 7. Let's go.
You
Let's
know
go.
what? Let's
Keep it on topic.
let's go.
Adult beverages are poured. The kids are asleep. Welcome to New Dad Gaming. It's a show about fatherhood, gaming, and new fathers figuring out their gaming lives.
My name is Trevor, and I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old.
I'm Jeff. It's summer. My kids are nowhere near their bedtime. They are 12 and 10, and still up. I can hear them.
My kids are terrorizing the neighborhood.
Yeah. They're outside flying kites at night. Who knows what they're doing? It's summer.
There's fireworks. There's s'mores.
Whatever
there's
they're doing.
chasing raccoons.
Yeah.
The long glory days of summer.
That's right.
We are just in the thick of it. It is, man, it's fantastic. We'll have some nights where they'll go for a swim in the pool, but it just starts to be so late. It's like, you know what? That's a bath. That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Your kids are fine.
Totally.
There's
totally do
chlorine.
that.
Chlorine's like soap, right?
Dad, I'm itchy. Never mind. Don't worry.
Oh, well, unless you want to run off on a sprinkler, I don't see any solution to this problem.
Let Dad just hose you down as you get out.
Yeah. Oh, but I do adore these days of summer. It is, especially as the kids have gotten older now. It's just so much fun to be out with them, playing soccer, playing frisbee, going for hikes, just stomping around. So that's been a really cool part about it as they continue to get older. Was there kind of a threshold for you that you remember where, because I can recall when I had like a 1-year-old or even like a 3-year-old, like summer was kind of just like hot and sticky.
Yeah.
But then they just turn the corner where all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is cool. It's like warm outside and we can just do a bunch of fun like activities that they want to do.
I think once the stroller dropped out of the picture,
Yes.
that's when that turning point was, right? Because then they could walk, they were toilet trained, they could do whatever and go to the splash pad and do, Pokemon Go maybe was even at that point. That's when it was less exhausting and less work. I think more bonding than it was work to have them survive.
Those two milestones are fantastic. So they drop the stroller, potty trained.
Yeah.
Life-
Golden.
So think about going to the beach without diapers and without a stroller. Life is made in the shade.
Yeah.
But hopefully what you have on that beach is a beer, because the new dads here are continuing with our summer of beers. Thanks to everyone who has sent in one. This goes to new dad John, who had sent one in. So for myself, we had an Ashton Brewing Company. ABC, which is a great little limerick, great little name on it. This was their amber ale. Apparently this was their first one they had done. So this is a fairly small brewery. So unfortunately for neighbors down the States, I don't think you'll be able to find them, but do, if you ever come up into Ontario, try to find it, any LCBO or beer store. There's something about when a brewery does an ale properly, where the amount of flavor to it, the amount of body and character to it is just so much deeper, so much like better tasting. So this is just one of those. Absolutely recommend it. If you can ever find it where you are, Ashton Brewing Company Amber Ale. What are you sipping on this week there, Jeff?
I'm still looking at the ABCs and like with the kids and learning and like the stroller, like that fits in perfectly. That's
there you
great.
go. That's right.
Yes.
Kid, you got your ABC.
That's
Dad's
right.
got his ABCs. Except the more I drink of this, the more letters I'm forgetting.
Right.
right.
Yeah. So mine has a little bit of a story. I took my kids into the beer store here is just basically the grocery store now. And they wanted to pick out Dad's beer for Dad's pick of the week. So I'm like, fine, go for it. So my 12-year-old in like the fridge is looking at all the labels, starts laughing like crazy at this one called Help Yourself to My Neighbor's Pool. And just the name of it and the graphic is just so fun.
It's very good.
So this one was picked out by my 12-year-old, and I will say that it is something else. It was. I was not expecting what this was, but it's brewed out, I think, Sarnia, Ontario. So again, I don't think it's available for our friends south of us. But it's like a milkshake, man, like a smoothie. That's beer, which is I've never had something like that. Like kind of drinking almost like a beer smoothie out of these things, and it's pretty strong. So while great on maybe a hot day, ice cold, I was done at 1. Like this was a filling drink.
This is okay. I'll say this. So totally makes sense that your kid would pick it. This graphic, the title, hilarious.
Yeah.
A plus. The graphic, we got pink and orange and a 1950 style illustration of someone just diving into ostensibly a neighbor's pool. Perfect, excellent. But I'm going to read this, and there's nothing that's part of this that makes me think nice summer beer. This peach mango smoothie IPA, and I'm going to read that part again. This peach mango smoothie IPA is made with real mango puree, lactose, and a bevy of oats, creating a thick and hazy body that pairs beautifully with a big fruity hoppy notes. So the words we don't often have in beer is puree, lactose, oats, and thick.
Yep.
Do you have any beers that are thick, sir?
I don't even think it got out of the, like when you pop the can lid for it to just kind of sluice out. But yeah, it is filling. It's thick.
Need a can opener. It's like a can of soup. But I do like these type of choices because it's just like go nuts. Hey, this like pale ale kind of tastes like beer. Great. I'd much prefer to hear about this, which is like just throw caution to the wind and have at it. So I much prefer that this stuff exists.
Yeah, absolutely. So take a dive in yourself there, Trevor.
Yeah, probably not.
Pool.
That's why I listen to this show, Jeff, because I like to know what I might like. So that's it. Hey, Gaming Dads, again, thanks to Gaming Dad John for my recommendation. Any other dads have recommendations, like reach out to us. New Dad Gaming, at New Dad Gaming, I should say, on Twitter, or newdadgaming.com for the website. Would love to hear from you. So before we start the rest of the show, Jeff has invoked dad rights to make fun of me for a gaming miss during my younger days. Somebody had asked on Twitter, anybody out there, I'm doing my first playthrough of Final Fantasy VII, the original. What are some tips you would give me? And I gave the tip that like, hey, for my first playthrough, I never knew that the all materia is how you would cast something against everybody. Just a hot tip. To which Jeff immediately messaged me. It's like, okay, we have a gaming podcast, sir, and you have the most embarrassing lack of knowledge for what ostensibly is one of our audience's one of the
faves.
Game held one of the faves. That's a great way to say it.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Jeff.
You can't post this, Trevor. It makes us look like we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, for some reason, the only reason I recall this is because I later in life, when I was older, did a second playthrough. And I went to the room where you're kind of talking to all the guards and everything, and they were explaining materia. And they said, okay, if you want to have something that affects everybody, use the all material. And reading it, I'm like, oh, that's how that works. Like, I remember the realization and the fact that I reflected on my first playthrough and just had no clue how to do it. Just did it accidentally in a way.
Yeah,
so,
it doesn't really tell you beyond that point either. So if you do miss it or you're pushing buttons or whatever, you're kind of like you're just gonna make the game more difficult, which I guess you did your first playthrough.
Oh so. Yeah, man. So anyways, it stood to reason. Jeff was deserved some good dunking, so we had to make it going. But it also transitions nicely into the next story, which is Jeff getting into Final Fantasy 17, or 16, I should say, which has been, I believe, fantastic.
Yeah.
But you were a bit surprised when a 1990s video game trope entered into the chat room.
Yeah, so like you said, Final Fantasy 16, great game. I love it. I'm still playing it. It's a great experience. I encourage everyone to go pick it up. The fetch quests in this thing, these side quests, quote-unquote side quests, are hilariously thin and shallow. Like, And it really kind of takes you, because you have this gripping story, and it's one of the darker Final Fantasy stories, like that there's blood and death, and like, oh my god, things are actually falling apart, and it doesn't look like there's any hope. Like world ending stuff, which is, I guess, not new to the Final Fantasy kind of plot line, but this is just in like that darker tone, right? And you're doing all this in this world of like, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but like there's these huge crystals. You have to like crush these crystals and basically bring the world to the end. So on this quest, you're doing all this stuff, and then you're given these side quests of like, hi sir, can you please deliver these peaches from this girl that died from the crystal you just destroyed? Because it's her lasting legacy. Yeah, and not just one person, there's 2 bundles, and you need to go at either end of this hideout we're at, because I can't do it because I'm standing here.
There's just
Okay.
like they're living under the crystal that has killed half their town.
Yeah.
The impending doom is like staring them in their face, and it's like, I have these 6 sticks that I need to deliver to my dear grandma in the town over. Can you, the one chosen prophesized hero, take a good 40 minutes of your world-saving time and deliver some sticks to me? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, come on.
It's
I get it. It's often levied against AAA companies that they need to pad the content. Like, look, unless this game is, 60 hours long, people are going to be upset about paying $80.
right.
So, there's that push to put more content in. But when it's like, we suffered this already. We've been through this nonsense. Like, RPG, classic trope. First thing you do, you get 16 rat pelts.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And it would
Right?
just seem this day and age we'd be able to move past it and find something more meaningful.
Yeah, and that didn't really happen. It's actually worse because
You're being too kind, Trevor.
well, because back in the day, you could literally, those dialogue boxes that popped up was a quick and easy button press, like blah, blah, blah. Okay, get through your thing. I'll go deliver the rat pelts to the guy over there. Dialogue box, you're done. End quest. The way this is structured, it's the same director as Final Fantasy 14, so it's a very like MMORPG kind of style where you're locked into this one-on-one conversation now, and the person is voice acted. Takes a lot to get out their Peach story, and then it's quest accepted, which is a whole different splash screen. So like, and then that's a few seconds, and then you go deliver the peaches, and then the quest is complete, and that's a splash screen, and then like you're back far away from the main quest line, and you have to run back up to that. So it's like, again, great game. I love it to death, but these things kind of just, the gaming time of me is very slim, and I can't do all these things.
Just the trend. It just gets. I feel if they had just put a little bit more effort to try to make it pervient to like within the story. So they mentioned crystal stuff. I don't know the story of this game in particular, but there's big crystals apparently you got to destroy.
Yeah,
fine. We found that if you gather crystal shard, like tiny pieces of crystals, we can use them for whatever energy reactor. Could you please go collect 20?
there you go.
It's the same stupid quest, but it's in line with the overall kind of story and like the arch. So like at least you could almost be invested in that, right? And now instead it's like you go through this horrendous, vicious battle. You got materials flying. You got like you're calling in your Ifrits. You got these huge, massive explosions. Yeah. And the announcer screams out like, "World boss defeated!" and then 5 seconds later, if you do another quest, it's like, "Peaches delivered." It's like, what am I doing with my life? Like, come on.
Yeah, and like the reward for it is nothing. Like the reward is just like your own kind of like self-worth out of the game, because the experience is literally like 10 experience points. It's not going to gain you levels.
Great.
You don't really get gold or like materials out of it. It's just for your own good. So again, it's just really thin that way, and it harkens back to almost Final Fantasy 7. I don't even know if there were really side quests in that game. There were things that you could find, but
yeah,
it's just like, did we have to do this? I would rather take all this stuff out or make it in line with the story, like you were saying, and then it would be good.
Yeah.
But it's just it's an honest criticism. I think we can move past it, especially in 2023.
Yeah,
it just takes a little bit,
little more creativity.
Let's go. Creativity. That's right. Yeah.
Now, speaking of creativity, fantastic transition. You went to a live show that had a very integrated gaming component to it, and apparently you were one of the players. I'm really interested to hear about this.
Yeah, so this was a live performance by a person that loves games. It's a true story based on his life, where he kind of felt his Game Boy, his Game Boy Color, which made me old.
Nice.
Like, I grew up with his Game Boy Color. I'm like, oh, it's not even the original. But
You youngin.
it
You
was,
don't know.
yeah, exactly. But it was something that he kind of, that was his safe spot. So almost his save point. So it was his life through where he would turn to games as this way of dealing with a lot of the trauma was going through his life. With his mother, who was diagnosed with an illness that was terminal, and then he had to be tested for the same illness. And there's no real spoiler because it's more performance, but it was something that he had to deal with because now he's positive for the same illness. So how does he work through that? So he developed this thing where you play games that represent pivotal parts in the story of his life. So when he's fighting with his mother's illness, it's actually done as like an RPG. So they hand out a physical Game Boy where
That's crazy.
it's in the audience, and I was one of the players. I was one of the lucky ones, where everything is controlling the actor through like electrodes, like electroshocks. So he's not getting hurt, but any button you press is sending a signal to these electrodes on his body to understand to move left, right, jump, duck, like the basic moves, right? And even turn. So like one of the, I won't go into all of it, but there's one like a character selection screen, and like what emotion do you feel for this one part of the story, and you would turn, and he would turn and do the emotion like you would rotate a character in a character selection screen. It was hilarious.
Wow.
Like it was making something a little bit lighthearted from such a serious topic, and again building in that interaction was kind of a neat way to do it, because I didn't know how it would work. Where again, this was promoted as like a game interactive performance, so it was interesting that he is literally part of what you're doing as the gamer. You're affecting him physically in this game. So
That's all. I mean, that's been a somewhat thread we've in speaking with, you, the listeners, fellow gaming dads. It's some things we've heard where, you'll hear the story. I was in the hospital and I had my, phone with me, which I was playing a game. I had a lot of late nights, and I just would always have kind of like Destiny 2 on in the background. X, Y, these punctuations of points in your life, or a lot of time dads when they were kids that we've spoken with would relate back to times in their life where maybe things were a bit difficult at home, and Mario represented this escape, just a place where they could sort of turn things off for a moment and just be in a moment, which is great.
yeah.
So that kind of thought has already permeated much of our conversations we've had with fellow gaming dads, and to know that somebody's taken that, turned it into art, and then created a entertaining performance, like that's so very cool to hear.
Yeah. And again, the audience was very much into it, and it made them feel part of his story, which I think, again, the whole point, to experience his trauma and experience what he was going through by passing around this Game Boy, where most people had a turn, and then the audience was almost involved at the end. Like all together, we had to time his actions on this performance screen. So it was a neat performance. Again, no save points. Fantastic. It was just here in Toronto. I'm not sure if they go around at all, but it was something to look out for, something different.
Nice. That is awesome. So yeah, folks, definitely check it out. And I mean, any other gaming related performances that you've seen, or obviously one of the bigger ones was when an orchestra will come into town, play like the various video game soundtracks. There seems to be a certain move towards elevating some of the cooler content within gaming to a new audience, new outpouring of it. So Gaming Dads, if you hear anything like that, we'd love to hear from you. newdadgaming.com or Twitter @newdadgaming. Now, the funny story from your kids this week, where Steam Summer Sale is underway, which I think you have a couple of pickups for us to consider, which would be great. But it sounds like your kids were using it as an opportunity to be generous, if perhaps a bit misplaced, but generous.
Yeah, so this might be a little bit of a warning to gaming dads and having, children with Steam accounts and a Steam wallet with digital funds sitting there, because my 12-year-old took it upon themselves, and my 10-year-old, to buy their friends games that were on sale because they wanted to play with them. And of course, it's summer. Their friends didn't have these particular games, so they ended up buying it for them. Found out because there's, when there's a lot of laughter upstairs, and you're like, let's go. Like, it's like too much. Like, there's a threshold. You're like,
there's no way you're having that much fun not getting into trouble.
That's right. Yes. So it was like one of those check-ins, and I found out that they bought their friend these games, and I'm like, okay, well, why? Like, just let me hear your reasoning, and you're not in trouble. But it was, they wanted to play with them. I'm like, okay, well, and then they explained to me, they used my own words against me, saying, well, Dad, it was on sale. Right? So they waited for it to be on sale, and it was a good deal. And so I'm like, okay, well, it is your money, but, here's the rules of, like, you're not trying to buy friendship. You're not trying, like, this is something that, people are going to accept, but, don't be taken advantage of. It's great that you want to play with your friends and have them in on your game, but there are other ways to do this. And I mentioned share play. A lot of those games allow you to share with somebody else for a co-op experience without the other person buying it. And also, I have, like, much like Game Pass, I have the PlayStation Plus library that has a whole slew of these things that you could share across that system as well. So, like, before you go out and buy things, just do your research and then know that you're not buying friendship. Like, if it's for a cause or for something, great. It's so kind, but, like,
that's
once the money's gone, it's gone.
The nuance there is tricky, man, because, like, it's so kind that they would spend their own money to help their friend so they could participate in an experience.
Yeah.
Awesome. Gaming dad pride, like, your heart swells. This is really great. But much like you said, are they kind of more excited about this than they can be because they see you as a wallet in order to get the things that they can't get? Or is it more, where's the line on that? So it's kind of nice how you laid it out. The conversation is like, don't buy friendship. Right. The kindness is fantastic. Generosity is amazing. Those are virtues we want in all of our kids. But don't be taken advantage of and be spending your money just to try to make people happy and like you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those things, just to be, any gaming dads out there, just, do those little check-ins when you hear a lot of laughter, maybe above a certain level, and ask some questions. Again, we didn't approach it as like, thou shall not, like, it's bad, don't do that. It was more about finding out their logic to it and maybe doing a little course correction. Let's, like, again, like you said, good to be generous and kind, but, there's this, like, kind of friendship contract that you have to have, right? So don't be taken advantage of.
Nice. Well said, well played. Now, not sure what they picked up, but I know that you picked up a couple titles, so I'd be kind of curious if you could walk us through the games you found on the Steam Summer Sale.
I don't know what it is with summer and me and stressful games, but here I am picking up stressful games.
That are all about micromanagement and tiny, minute details.
Yeah, I don't know why, but Project Zomboid, which sounds funny, but it's a super popular game, pretty cheap, I think $15 on the sale right now. It's about this survival horror. You wake up in this world, obviously with zombies in it, and you have to survive. So there's seasons, weather, all this stuff that happens. There's also, you have to scavenge everything, so you're without supplies. So everything you scavenge is something that you can use, and then there's even base building in it to try and build a base away from the horde and survive. I don't even know what the end game is, to be honest. But everything in it is interactive. So there's cars and stuff, but the engine might not work. Or maybe there's a flat tire, but you can fix that with something in some guy's shed. And then, like, the bandages could be in a med kit in a bathroom. Or you rip your socks and tie it around, like, any wound that you get, right? So it's, like, very minute, very detailed. I don't know why I picked it up, but I'm blown away by the amount of, like, effort that went into making it. But I tried this out with my 10-year-old because it is like a co-op thing, and we had a blast just dying.
That's
because
possible.
Dad would fend off the zombies trying to take off the dad role, and my 10-year-old would be up trying to scavenge supplies and find a way out, and then I'm dead because I'm overrun by zombies because my 10-year-old's making noise, so there's a noise factor in this game. They're up there breaking glass and stuff. But anyway, it's a hilarious game if you want it to be, and if you're really into survival horror, which I don't know if I am or not, but I'm really blown away by the amount of detail. this is something that is easy enough to pick up. It's a little hard on the eyes, but you kind of get over that with the amount of stuff.
I was thinking about, so it's kind of, if you're looking at this game, it's worth, anyone listening, go check it out on YouTube to get a sense of it. It actually really draws me in, the visuals. I'd almost call it like a PlayStation era isometric game, but with modern kind of lighting facets to it. So for me, it becomes very visually interesting, and it kind of a la Resident Evil 1 really suits the game well because it's clunky. It's going to be difficult to navigate and a bit confusing, but that is perfectly in line with this type of thing where it's any moment of frantic action is sort of is challenged further by how bad the graphics
all
and
the
everything
jank. All the jank and the controls and stuff. Yeah, it's just part of the challenge, I guess.
So I'd be kind of into this game. That one looks pretty cool. So what was the other one that you picked up?
Quickly, another survival game, Stranded, Alien Dawn, which I don't know. I'm into colony sims where you crash land on a planet and you have to figure stuff out, much like a Project Zomboid where you kind of start with nothing. But this is a neat one that plays well on the Steam Deck, and it's fully 3D, which a lot of my colony sims are just 2D stuff because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
But this was a neat 3D stuff, and it really does look pretty and beautiful. And a lot of the graphics are really clean, and there's a big mod scene for it. So if you're into colony sims, this one's another one that's got a 50% cut on it, I think, for the Steam Summer Sale. So I will recommend this one as well, but only if you just want to be stressed out by trying to survive the winter with no heat or no food. So
is your job of managing people and projects just not enough? Wouldn't you love to come home and in your spare time do the exact same thing?
Exactly, right?
I have some games for you.
Being a parent in life, being a parent to digital people, why not?
Yeah, I think that what kind of bothered me, I suppose, the Project Zomboid in particular. I've taken a couple looks at the Steam sale, and I was kind of disappointed almost in a way with my reaction to it, because there's all these, for $1 or $2, you can pick up these little games. There was a tabletop card game, which is just right up my alley. There's this 2D platformer that could be really cool. There's all of these fantastic looking little games, and my initial thought was I just at this juncture, I just don't have the time. I had sunk so much stuff into Diablo 4, and this week was a crazy one. I have not touched it now in one straight week. I've not played that game. And I thought that I would just pick up another one, and especially with something like Zomboid, where it's this is not just a 5-minute couch, have a good time. This is you're gonna have to dedicate some time into learning it, playing it, going farther and farther. So I want to say sad, that kind of oversells it in a sense, but I'm just, in looking at this sale, it's where has the fun gone? Where has young me gone, who could just pick up some of these fun, silly things and, while away a few hours with different experiences for a couple bucks here and there. It somehow struck me, this particular Steam sale.
Yeah, so what I view games as now, as a gaming dad, is kind of like ice cream. So you might have a couple of containers of ice cream in your freezer, and one day you don't want vanilla all the time. You might want Neapolitan, or maybe some chocolate mint, and you just want to taste. You're not necessarily gonna finish the carton, but you want different ice creams and maybe have a little taste, and then you're done, and then you pick it up another day, or maybe it stays in the freezer. I don't know, but that's how I view it. I'm I want a taste of these things, knowing I can't dump my whole life into learning it, though I'd want to. It would be fun.
Yeah.
But it's not possible.
Yeah. I hate to, idolize retirement and the future.
We're almost there. How many years? We got a clock?
Only 20. As opposed to living now in the moment, enjoying it. But you do just think about a moment in time when the day would stretch ahead of you, and you could maybe find some time to dip into 4 or 5 of these type of things. But hey, as I said, I tend to look at you with a ray of hope. where it's it gets better. As we always kind of say at this show, it gets better. So
that's right.
That's what Steam Summer Sale struck me as. But hey, I would much prefer to hear about other successes. So if any gaming dads out there have a recommendation we can pass along while the summer sale is going on, pass them on. We'd love to know what you picked up and what you're loving so we can advise other gaming dads. newdadgaming.com or at newdadgaming on Twitter. Right, and with that, we'll wrap it up there for the week. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the podcast, you can find us on all the major podcast networks. We'd really appreciate a subscription and most especially a review. Leaving a rating and a review really helps to boost the signal. We're going to probably be having a bit of announcements soon about that and how you can leave a rating and review and participate for something for an upcoming show of ours. But yeah, if you can leave a subscribe, rating, review, helps us huge. You can find us all the major networks, iTunes, Google Podcast, Spotify, Caster, anywhere you get your podcast. Just search for New Dad Gaming. Again, if you want to write in with your own stories, we're on have some games, steaming recommendations, beer recommendation as we're right in the middle of some beer. We'd love to hear from you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This has been New Dad Gaming. Until next week, my name is Trevor, and I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old.
And just remember, just because you became a dad
means you cast all materia.
Son of a
on
bitch.
In Final Fantasy VII, you equip all materia to cure your party.
I lowered my guard. I let you have your shot. This is now you coming and like stabbing me in the back.
No,
this is a punch in the back as I'm leaving the room. How dare you, sir?
I was going to continue. It doesn't mean it's game over if you didn't use it.
I was unconscious from your vicious strikes. Thank you very much. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you later.